to briefly point out some notes about the speaker's context. Earl Spencer is the younger brother of Diana, Princess of Wales. His first name is actually Charles. Earl is really the title that they're given almost as a rank within the hierarchy of the royal family. So just make sure when you're referring to him in writing that you use his full title, Earl Spencer. Now, in terms of the purpose of Earl Spencer's speech, it is a lot more specific than some of our other speakers, largely because it is a eulogy. Now, if you're not sure what a eulogy is, basically it's a tribute spoken at a person's funeral, or usually a tribute just to anyone that has died. Therefore, his ultimate purpose in this speech is to really commemorate the life of Princess Diana, and ultimately, in his case, his sister. Diana herself was an incredibly loved and popular figure at the time. She was well known for her compassionate nature, particularly to those who were underprivileged within society. And if she wasn't known for her style, it was really her ongoing support of all things charity that really sort of represented her as a person. As a result, she was really popular because of the humanity she displayed despite the status of her being a princess. So she really broke that mold and the barrier of the royal family and their relationship with, the everyday person. So she often faced a lot of harsh criticism from the royal family and certainly the media as a result. Now, in terms of her death, she died unexpectedly in a car crash whilst holidaying in Paris. So this really added another layer to the sadness and tragedy of, her death. So at the time, she was actually divorced already from Prince Charles and had left behind 15-year-old Prince William and 13-year-old Prince Harry. So naturally, a very unexpected and certainly sad end to her life. Now, when looking at the speech itself, you need to remember the context of when we're talking about. So this eulogy was delivered a week after her death, so naturally emotions are still very high and particularly very raw. Straight away in Earl Spencer's speech, we are exposed to the voice of the grieving brother. He delivers this voice ultimately in an attempt to express not only his personal loss, but establish really the familiar connection that he has with Diana. So in doing so, we really get, a true representation of her and get the sense that this is someone that is ultimately, very close to her. In addition, Earl Spencer establishes the personal and public voice as he has the opportunity here to do so, not only as he states as a representative of a family, but in fact, the country itself and really the wider world, so not just within Britain itself. This is really important because he really acknowledges and also embraces the opportunity to use his voice for others. So in doing so, he really establishes his purpose and really uses the use of the personal pronouns of, I and we here to immediately establish a connection with the audience so that they really too feel like they're sharing this experience and also their feelings toward Diana themselves. He really starts to get into the experience of who she was. And as a result, he uses, these particular choices of diction, such as desire and, respects, and also the need to do so. So he's really emphasizing the importance of the event here and also, Diana as an individual in their lives. So he continues the magnitude of the loss and the event itself and, the extreme sadness of it all through these choice words. He ultimately uses inclusive plurals such as, tens of millions of people and the fact that they too lost someone close to them. So really he's wanting to not only be inclusive but really kind of establishing this sad yet respectful tone in regards to the event. Earl Spencer continues the voice of the grieving brother in this next paragraph, really in an effort to celebrate the qualities of who Diana was as a person. I think his voice is really most powerful here as he really shared a close relationship with her that was, really intimate on a family level and being able to know who she really was. So he really uses his voice to share these insights into what, he believed, and certainly a lot of people within the public believed her to be quite an incredible person. So it's powerful because it's from the perspective of someone that truly knew her. So he really, again, establishes quite a tender and affectionate tone here, and, highlights who she really was here through this sort of, accumulation. The very essence of compassion, of duty, of style, of beauty. These are all the things that epitomize her, both not just physically, as, she was quite an attractive person that was known for her style, but really who she was ethically, that she was this person that was so incredibly compassionate and believed that she had, a duty to her people, not that she was just a princess. So, he uses diction continues to use diction of selfless humanity and, the standard bearer for the rights of the truly downtrodden, to really show the picture, or paint a picture of who Diana was as a woman, and certainly how not only he but also the public felt about her. So, I really think downtrodden gives such a powerful image there in terms of people in society that are really, the underdog, whether that be, financially, through stigmas, through illness, whatever. She really sort of embraced people that were considered to be different or perhaps even unworthy in society. And, he continues that diction through the use of the British girl to show, that's who she is. She's an innocent person, not just in the way that she conducted herself, but also that she wasn't really deserving of the treatment that she experienced. She was really a victim of the harshness, not just from the royal family point of view, but also the media. So, this is here where, to emphasize his standpoint and his aggression toward, the treatment she experienced, he introduces the voice of the remonstrator, which basically just means he's, arguing against a point. So he really uses, these key words here with someone with a natural nobility who was classness. So in the fact that he's kind of making this satirical slur here against the royal family, because they in fact really rejected her long before even she was divorced from Charles. It's here that he tries to make the point that she was noble and she was royal, even without the title. She didn't need those things. She didn't need all the elaborateness or any of those things to make her, who she was. And he really continues that rhetorical vilification here by saying that she needed no royal title, which, it's the fact that he's, again, making this abusive statement to the royal family, criticizing them for removing her title once she divorced from Charles. So there's just these little contextual things that Earl Spencer brings out throughout that really are the underpinning of her life and, what was being experienced at the time. And I think, again, this is another really powerful part of the speech because he's not afraid to be outspoken here. Reality is he's in a very public place at the time and he's going up against some really powerful people here, and he's not afraid to speak about the truth and the treatment she, experienced from these people. So, lastly, I just want to mention the fact that he uses this choice word or diction of magic, that who she was such a rare and amazing thing, and almost to the point of unbelievable that, she really could only be likened to, magic, has those qualities that are just, unbelievable. This next paragraph is really where Earl Spencer uses the voice of the everyman, because he's really wanting to address Diana to herself or speak to her directly, really in terms of wanting to speak about the thoughts and feelings he possesses toward her. And, he uses the second person of you to do that. So he repeatedly uses this in an effort to allow his voice to highlight the enormity of the loss and that not only he's experiencing but everyone. So again, he uses this egalitarian nature here of being inclusive and really almost attempts throughout to use a juxtaposed position, sort of showing these mixed feelings of, being cheated and, taken from us so young. But then sort of juxtaposes with the idea that yet we're meant to be grateful that, you came along at all. So, it's kind of hard for people that die at a young age for people to accept that. So he acknowledges that although how difficult that is, the way that she lived her life will give people, especially her family, the ability to move forward with their own life, however, difficult that may be. So he really highlights again her qualities, of strength to help them in their own processes of grief. Diana was often likened at the time by the media to that of a saint, or associated with, a saint and sainthood and all these sort of actions. And although Earl Spencer acknowledges that here in terms of his, diction of canonize, he kind of also rejects this notion in the same breath, again through the remonstrative voice, as he, effectively uses personification here to, deny that concept of her being a saint, that, her reputation will continue long after her death, and that she was so much more than what the media portrayed her to be. So again, his close connection provides him with the credibility that the media doesn't really always have, and certainly does not have in this case. So he uses this opportunity to really sort of reject the media and their attitudes and opinions of her. To further highlight this, he really establishes the voice of the grieving brother again, with the use of, the oxymoron wonderfully mischievous, in an attempt to really encompass her uniqueness. And his use of this is coupled with, this extensive imagery of, who she was, with the fact that, her humor had a laugh that, made you bend over double, sort of thing like this. She was really quite a funny person, and she was such a joyous person, and, the sparkle of her eyes, all of these sorts of things. So he really uses, these images to really highlight some remarkable qualities that she had. Continues here, also saying about what an intuitive person she is, and really, so important in the lives of other people. So he's really just affirming what a good person she is here, and does that from his own personal standpoint. He continues on this whole notion of, the sainthood, but in a more positive way, saying, that she had this God-given sensitivity. So it's not as if she made that in herself. She, already possessed that, and really sort of allowed other people through her sensitivity to expose others to issues that they perhaps may not have. So Earl Spencer really uses this metaphor here about the plight of these issues. So he really acknowledges Diana's role in educating the public about those less fortunate, and uses his voice to really positively affirm the qualities she has, in an attempt to, produce a range of images that really encapsulated Diana as a humanitarian and a person that was, a vast charitable work. So really in this section, he sort of emphasizes the greatness that she was, and the ability to give to others, and contextually, AIDS and HIV sufferers and homelessness, and these were some big issues at the time that raised a lot of question in society, and she really brought these issues to the forefront in such a positive way, and encouraged people to, donate to these causes and be aware of the issues that came about from all of these sorts of problems within society. So, he powerfully links in conclusion in this section that it's actually the experiences that she had and the vulnerabilities she possessed that allowed her to demonstrate this humanity. And he really acknowledges that here. He acknowledges that she had some significant weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and really that was what made her so well liked by other people, because she too had been through hardships and was really able to share that experience with others. The next few paragraphs highlight the personal response of Earl Spencer to really reflect the life that he shared with his sister. And he uses lots of anecdotes here to speak about times they shared, and uses memories to reflect fondly of experiences they shared together. And, he really uses this first person here in terms of, the last time he saw her was really for her birthday, and when she'd come to visit him in South Africa, and all these sorts of things. And he really, again, engages the connection that he has with her. This is really personal for him. He really is the grieving brother. So again, he touches on these issues really to highlight, times they spent together. And kind of interesting to note where he mentions about meeting President Mandela, really sort of emphasized again a bit of an example of the company that you keep is kind of who you are. And, she was often associated with people like Mandela because they wanted to seek change in the world for, particularly as, Earl Spencer has already mentioned, the downtrodden. But after this, we again see the voice of the remonstrator reappear, particularly taking the opportunity to accuse the paparazzi through rhetorical vilification once again about her life being, complicated and repeatedly intruded here, as he refers to the ever-present paparazzi. So it's almost like this irony here about feeling a sense of achievement that she was able to go somewhere and not be photographed. That was almost like a win for her, because as he's mentioned in the paragraph above, she is this really very insecure person that was, childlike and really only wanted to do the good for others. And these issues of unworthiness and eating disorders were really a result of her life, and the toll that, the paparazzi really took on her life, and the expectations that she kind of really felt she could never really meet. So it's kind of interesting at this point, because this is really where Earl Spencer makes quite a shift in the tone of the subject matter. He really gets into the crux of his feelings of hatred toward the treatment of Diana, not just from the media, we slightly, see that, but also largely the royal family. And again, he does this through the reflection of their life together to show that here, as it says, fundamentally, she remained the same. She was largely the same person, however, was severely affected by the events of her life. And again, you could marry that with some of the statements that I've previously highlighted above here with, eating disorders and all those sorts of things. So, it's really talks about the effect and the impact of her life. And he quotes it here saying that it's really the most bizarre life imaginable. This diction refers to the issues that she faced, again, in relation to the media and the royal family. And he really takes the opportunity here to voice his accusations of these two groups in the role of her death, most specifically the paparazzi. So, and it's, kind of interesting because contextually the public were really quite disgruntled or aggressive about the fact that the royal family really had not made any response in relation to her death. It was almost as if they kind of hid behind the protocols of the royal family. And, it's here that he highlights the limitations of royal life to, what her existence truly was. So Earl Spencer really continues to address the media through the voice of the remonstrator, really talking about, again, the role the media played in her life, and really about the fact that her life was not really positive. You see a lot in this paragraph here that a lot of the experiences were not, positive. And he really personifies the media in an attempt to represent someone who was impeded by them. They impeded her life in every sense, physically, emotionally, psychologically. So he really uses a scornful tone here, and aims it at the media for their persecution of her, and, sort of mentions about the fact that no matter how much of a good person she was, they were always trying to focus on the negatives. And that really sort of messed with her mind a lot, because she couldn't really understand how she was able to give so much and they could still represent her as kind of this horrible person. So, and he really uses the irony here of the fact that, Diana is, literally hunted by the media. He uses the fact that her name is a reflection of the Greek goddess of hunting. And, it's easy to see that the media literally did hunt down her for the details of her life. And it's at this point that, even as an outsider, those of the public who didn't personally know her, this voice of the remonstrator sees the audience, to realize what a negative impact this must have had on her life. And, as a result, you kind of establish not only sympathy, but also, some empathy for her and what her life must have truly been like. In this next section here, Spencer moves on to the voice of the guardian, and really he does this to dedicate and pledge himself to her sons. Largely acknowledging here the hopes and the dreams that she would have had for her boys. So, you see this emotive diction here, and, particularly through the choices of, suffer, anguish, regularly, even despair, to ensure that her sons don't suffer from the same fate she did, not just from the royal family, but, particularly the media. And, he goes on in the next paragraph to take a little bit of a stab again at the royal family, through the use of blood family. So, indirectly criticizing them here. So, again, it's really just a mournful tone at this perspective, and really cementing the relationship of their family here, and what a big impact this has had on their family. So, at this final section, he really goes on to say how much he is grateful to have known Diana and to have, a life with her, although incredibly short. And he really uses, again, the diction and affectionate tone that he has throughout the speech, emphasizing her to be on this level of uniqueness, that she was this beautiful and radiant woman that, had such a joyful attitude toward life. So, he really, again, sort of sums up the eulogy here by defining her as someone of generosity, of spirit, and humanity. So, this concluding metaphor here, in this section, really just highlights her legacy, and that she will not be forgotten easily.